Okay, good morning. Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin, and welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff Lives 1, McDuff Lives 3, and just plain McDuff on Facebook. And thanks for joining us. And this is Friday morning, and this is for the 14th Friday in a row. I've enjoyed just inviting you all to name your topic, and we'll talk about whatever is on your mind. Of course, I've got plenty on my mind, so we will have content any way you like it. Good morning, Sergeants Stadenko and Robert, Michael, and Corky. Eek, eek, eek. Corky, you are one of my most faithful and favorite supporters. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful camaraderie on the chat room. It really helps keep things uh, calm and and friendly, and keep it light. And anyway, I'm very grateful for that. And anyway, so yeah, I just was fumbling around for a thumbnail image to put up this morning, and I saw this one of my photographs of my dad. And this is just like the top portion of a much bigger picture that shows him and his car and everything. But the look in his face, I think, is pretty awesome. He's obviously got packing some heat in his pocket there. Um, he looks any you know you can pick a Humphrey Bogart or a Edward G. Robinson or Spencer Tracy or anybody else. You do pick one of their looks, and see which one do you think is really the tough guy. I think it's McDuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. The one in his Harvard football uniform. Yeah. Yeah, that is so interesting. He was a full boat scholarship, but it was not an athletic scholarship, and still he was on the football team. But something happened in his middle years, maybe junior year, I'm thinking, in which somebody's leg got broken or was going to get broken, or I don't know the whole story, but I've kind of been up in my head thinking that it might have been because that might have been why he never wanted me to be an athlete. He didn't want me to play football. I was absolutely banned from allowed to do that. But football, he would never play. And I think that some incident happened at Harvard that just turned him off to it, because I think that he saw that they were using the football game team as a way to find out who would go so far in doing their bidding. In other words, if you knew how to break somebody's leg, in other words, and they told you to, would you do it? Now that just might be me speculating, but I something happened that my dad would just not play football, so he didn't play the last year, and I'm not even sure if he played junior year. I've never really gone that deeply into trying to sort it out. I do hope to get up to Cambridge and see the whatever archives there are, because I've never done that. Haven't been to Harvard since the 1967 25th reunion of his class of 1942, which was a wonderful, wonderful 3 days in my youth. British government resignation, Robert says. Well, the thing is that it's apparently in favor of this even worse warmonger, if you can get worse than Boris Johnson. The Uh, most people that I follow are just like chairs on the Titanic or, moving their puppets around. And, it doesn't really make any difference. There's always going to be the same policy. It's going to be a war policy. And one wonders where's the limit to this? Is the whole British Parliament in the pockets of the war party now? I don't know. I don't follow Britain very closely, except for to be grateful that we're not part of them anymore. I wouldn't want to be a British subject. I'd much rather be a citizen of this country because we seem to have a voice. They do have to listen to us at some point. Maybe that's also true in Britain, but I don't see it. I think the British people have been pretty much subdued. Hmm. Abe assassinated. I don't know. I don't know anything about that except for that he was a reviled right winger, which was maybe that tells us something. I don't know. Huh. Okay, Raleigh, North Carolina. Patacorn, hi. Nazified here in the UK with all the recent legislation. Yeah, they're just turning you guys into expendable serfs, I'm afraid. And that's happening to us too. Hello, David Underdown checking in. Good morning, David. Ah, we were up kind of late last night exchanging Twitter messages, David and I. It's such a pleasure to work with David. Thank you so much, David. Well, I'll tell you what, I have got a topic which I'm going to play a little video from because I think here's here's what I'm wondering is happening. Is it fair for me to put these things together? Okay. Number one, Roe versus Wade. Okay. The new case, the Dodd's case, says that there's no constitutional right to an abortion. Okay. Now, that, of course, is a very conservative, Catholic oriented decision, as well as a very Protestant, conservative, right to life decision. So just think of it that's something a little unusual in the Biden administration and the things that are happening generally in our world. Interesting, but unique circumstance or unique case. Now, then, put on top of that, the second important Supreme Court case that came down, an environmental law, which said that the EPA could not restrict the union management contracting in such a way as to force them to stop mining coal. So that, again, that is one that favors the old economy, the conservative, we want to have our industries You know, we want to make steel, we want to make cars, we want to build things. That favors them because coal is one of the most important fuels for that constituency, for those businesses. And those kind of align with the people that were right to life or conservative Catholics. Okay. Now somebody blows up the Georgia Guidestones. Well, abortion is consistent with the goals of the Georgia Guidestones to reduce population to 500 million people by a certain whatever it was. And abortion was one of the ways that they were heading in that direction. And so downs another thing that we can put on the scale and say, wait a minute, maybe there is an opposition coming up from the old conservative powers. They're not going to lay down and play dead. Okay. So that's what was in my mind when this morning I was reading our friend Meg Mundy publishes an email list, and I'm on it, and I get from Meg Mundy, and I'm grateful to you, Meg, for these updates that we get most mornings. And one of the things she referred to was a very extraordinary speech by a man named Stuart Kirk of HSBC. Now, you know who HSBC is, right? This is the great money laundering bank of Hong Kong that has existed for 150 years or something, and is, traditionally admitted to have been the great opium bank, where the money got washed through, and still apparently, who knows? But anyway, this is still, it's a real bank. It's just that the depositors don't have to necessarily be all that up and up. Mark said, good morning, Mark. Hey, Housatonic Live is here. The Guidestones would also mean eliminating all gun control if we are to believe that guns reduce the population. Well, here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to play this video, which resulted in this man having to resign or resigning. But who is he? Is he speaking for this same possible constituency of old time conservatives saying, hey, those guys are wrong, and here the subject is climate change. So I'm going to share my screen, and feel free to comment on this as he goes along. I might toss in a comment myself. It's the Moral Money Summit at HSBC.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Andrew, back in the salmon bosom of the FT. That Lex and the FT were the happiest of my professional career, so it's a real joy to be back. You probably don't expect a speech title like this at a conference like this. I do have a beard, which is my one sop to responsible investing, but I can happily say that I'm probably the only head of responsible investing worldwide at a major bank who has never used the word journey, either in print or on stage. And I take a very, very financial and investment view of the topic. And it's only 20 minutes till coffee. And what I'm going to do over the next course of the 10 slides is to say why I completely disagree with the presentation that Sharon from Deloitte gave a couple of presentations ago, and why climate change is not a financial risk that we need to worry about. Heresy. I completely get that there is a competition for funding. I completely get that at the end of your central bank career, there are still many, many years to fill in. You've got to say something. You've got to fly around the world to conferences. You've got to out hyperbole the next guy. But I feel like it's getting a little bit out of hand. The constant reminder that we are doomed, the constant reminder that within decades it's all over. And indeed, Sharon said, we are not going to survive. And indeed, no one ran from the room. In fact, most of you barely looked up from your mobile phones at the prospect of non-survival. It's become so hyperbolic that no one really knows how to get anyone's attention at all. Now, I wouldn't normally mind that. 25 years in the finance industry, there's always some nut job telling me about the end of the world. I've dealt with gold bugs my whole financial career. The roof's going to cave down. Y2K. Does anyone remember Y2K? Anyone old enough? The lifts didn't stop. But what bothers me about this one is the amount of work these people make me do. The amount of regulation coming down the pipes, the number of people in my team and at HSBC dealing with financial risk from climate change. Last night, Target fell 25%. 25%. And people are asking the board of US companies to spend time being attacked by crypto. We've got regulators in the US trying to stop us. We've got the China problem. We've got a housing crisis looming. We've got interest rates going up. We've got inflation coming down the pipes. And I'm being told to spend time and time again looking at something that's going to happen in 20 or 30 years hence. The proportionality is completely out of whack. Now, interestingly, at the moment, markets agree, more or less, with me, despite the hyperbole. And this is a fun slide I put up just to annoy people. The more people say the world is going to end, and here I've looked at the number of incidences in all press around the world that use climate catastrophe, the number of times the phrase climate catastrophe is mentioned around the world, the higher and higher and higher risk assets go. In tandem. The more we're doomed, the higher prices go. How is that possible? So what's going on then? The Sharons and the Mark Carneys of this world need to tell us why prices are going up with our own demise. And there's really only three answers that are possible to old purists like me. Either the risk is negligible, which for investors is great. We get on with everything and fine. So no problem there. Maybe it's in the price. It's perfectly feasible that every single investor in the market, and there are millions of them, we all went to school and learnt about pricing theory, maybe it's in the price. In which case, if we solve climate risk, markets are gonna boom. And that's also fantastic for investors. Or the Mark Carneys of this world have to convince us all, including me, that every single one of us on climate risk is wrong. Everyone.
Come back. In this way, what this investment head for HSBC is saying is the whole green revolution that has been touted by Mark Carney, the whole climate emergency that drives our emergency legislation and our willingness to accept extraordinary budgeting and our governments paying for studies and insurance and all kinds of red tape that is all generated in the name of we have to fight climate change. So here we have HSBC standing up and saying, hey, the emperor has no clothes. Climate change is not going to break your bank. It's just not going to. Sure, maybe your investments in coal will go down, but you'll probably have seen that happen and invest in nuclear or invest in something that, that will keep going. And now whether he's right or not, I don't know, but at least he's a voice that's saying, stop with this climate emergency. Everybody is just too stressed out. Remember what he said at the beginning. If you could hear it, I'll just repeat it to you. He said that he was listening to the previous speaker who said that we're all going to be dead. And nobody flinched. Nobody left the room. Nobody looked up from their iPhones. It was like, the hyperbole has gone beyond the point of effectiveness, so that it's like, the sky is falling, and she's saying the sky is falling. And everybody's like, yeah, Chicken Little, you always say the sky is falling. What's new today? You got a new tweet. So he's calling their bluff. Now, this is HSBC, a historic, legal, and let's emphasize that it was legal under British law, until more recent times, but based upon the China trade. And who are these investors in HSBC? Well, who got involved in HSBC not too long ago, right? The neocons. And again, one of the things that I do in my show is I try to sort out who's on which side, So we do believe that John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the United States, if you accept that title under the current government, seems to be tightly connected with the Knights of Malta. And are they connected through their ancient maritime industries to the old China trade money? I think so. So basically, for 5 seemingly random events is that maybe there is a real opposition coming out to the Rockefeller, Maurice Strong, Green New Deal, $100 trillion investment fund being organized by the royalty of Great Britain, to save, once again, the corrupt, dying, bankrupt British Wall Street financial empire. For free reign, hello. Manufactured drama. They're all buying property on the water. Plymouth Rock has not moved. Sand and footing naturally settles, moves with tides, so that is used to manipulate the masses. Yeah, that's what I always say. I say, has your water level gone up significantly in your lifetime? Either if you live in the same place, or do you have a reference to some place where it used to be, significantly lower? Because if the world temperature is rising, then definitely the water level has got to rise. There's just no way that the water level can't rise if the temperature rises. And this is where you run into the whole problem of entropy, where you know, observed, it cannot be created or destroyed. It can slip back and forth, but the idea that just because it's hotter in North America, that the whole world is getting hotter, no, plus they don't have thermometers everywhere. They can't really give you an average temperature, and even if they did, it's meaningless unless you could give me data for 1,000 or 10,000 years. So yeah, but they're buying up the waterfront property. That's absolutely right. Try to get a beach house on the water this summer. Forget about it. Forget about it. It's, a little place for 2 or 3 people, $5,000-6,000 for a week. Yeah. Artemir. I refer always to Al Gore and the 95-year-old that died that wrote the book on global warming and then changed his opinion to an interglacial period and was attacked by the by now Al Gore. I think might be Buckminster Fuller you might be talking about. And David Underdown has really done a great job exposing Al Gore and his father, Albert Gore Sr., as partners with Arm and Hammer and Occidental Petroleum, and doing business with the Soviet Union, and obtaining oil concessions for Occidental, profiting from their relationship with the oil companies that they are now, claiming is causing, we're all going to die. Hyperbole. But the fraud of an Albert Gore and an Al Gore as environmentalists is just extraordinary. Abe was killed with a 3D printer gun. Interesting. Wonder why? Because it can get through an X-ray machine, maybe? Hmm. Yes, Sergeant Stadenko, you like to go to Kitty Hawk. We've been there many times over the many decades. I went when I was in college, of course, at William and Mary. We would go down there in the summer to the Outer Banks. And yeah, we were in Duck in the last week of April this year, and that was the last possible affordable time, and forget about it after that. Unless you want to live in one of those, huge mansions with 20. Occidental's largest shareholder now is Warren Buffett, says Mobster. How are you, Mobster? Thanks for joining me, and thanks for bringing me up to date on that. Warren Buffett, huh? Yes, Occidental David's here. Occidental got Elk Hills from the Teapot Dome scandal. That every time we mention the Teapot Dome scandal, it reminds me of the wonderful book called Real Lace by Stephen Birmingham, which was in my grandfather's locker at his retirement home when he died. And he was not locker, but in his closet, I should say. And it was just one of the things that we scooped up and put in boxes to carry away. And when I studied the book, I got home, I realized that it was a library book from the Simsbury Library in Connecticut that he had checked out and was obviously had been reading. And I guess I just never bothered to return the book. It's in my it's in my library around the corner right now. And in that book, it describes the participants in the Teapot Dome scandal and how that was all connected to the Catholic Church's uh, mission to get money out of Americans, such as the Knights of Malta, the Knight of St. Gregory, I think was the even greater honor. And, for a cardinal to come to your Elks Club meeting or whatever and say, here's what we need, and we really, really need your help, and blah, blah, blah. And that somehow, you're going to get knighted if you do this, and, your name, you'll go to heaven, right? The Pope will call up on the big golden telephone, say, God, send Murphy to heaven. He's a good man, you know. God will say, you got it, Pope. They really use that strong arm type of tactic to get money out of Americans, and the sad thing is that somebody like Doheny or Ryan or so many others would get involved in it, and then they'd be destroyed, just destroyed. Alcohol was one of the big problems that of course, you could say, well, you didn't have to drink, but putting somebody in a position who was just, comes from rural Ireland and ends up being a billionaire in today's terms, uh, can be controlled. And, that is a sad thing. Oh, hey, you lived there while you're in the army. Uh, yeah, well, that's right close to Fort Bragg, isn't it? Yeah, and the water problem, the serious poisoning of the water, it's tragedy. How do you get the, well, I guess that was the Marines. Forgive me if I confused that. Hmm. Burnt out looking for peace. How many millions of people can say that, and certainly would pick up an alcohol problem along the way. Join the club, you know. It's you can be controlled, and that's so obvious when you look at it from the outside. Funny how the vices of the world. Well, no, it's not. It's not. It's not funny. It's serious. How the vices of the world so eager to take offer their shoulder and take our money. That's right. All right. Well, thanks for being with me this morning. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover, and it's a beautiful day out here. And so I'll go out and do a little gardening. And I hope you guys find some joy in your day and enjoy. Find something nice to do or something good to eat or do something for yourself. You deserve it. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.